Hi guys. Welcome to probably the most informal podcast you've seen me do yet. I am Knitting Annie. I am coming to you from the corner of my fiber craft / messy room. You are watching the Knitting Annie podcast. What should I tell you? Today is Monday, February 9th, 2015. I normally film this on Sundays, but I was crazy busy yesterday, and we had yet another snow day today. So you are watching episode 6, and I am going to ramble on about many different things today. Because we had a snow day today, we're lucky that I got dressed. I am surprised that I'm doing this without any kind of makeup on. This is Naked Face Annie. So I didn't have to do too much to my hair. I am wearing the hat that I made for Brad. This is the socket hat that I showed you in the wool that I spun out of raw Jacob fleece. What else should I say about that? Nothing. So I'm sitting here in my very messy room coming to you. Oh, and we are horizontal today, or in landscape mode. So I'm trying something new. I don't know how it's going to come out because I can't look directly at the screen, because if I do, now my eyes are looking in the other direction. So if I look kind of at the corner of the camera, I think you are getting me the proper way we should be. Either way, whatever. You're here, I'm here. I'm going to ramble on about tons of stuff today. Hopefully we won't go too long. If we do, feel free to go get a beverage, to pause if you have to use the restrooms. I'll be here when you get back. So I am drinking today out of my lovely mug. I have to tell you, my friend Bill, who is affectionately known in the South as Fat Daddy, made this, oh no, his wife made this mug. I think he was the one that painted the mug. A few years ago, Brad and I had our own little farm type place where we kept chickens and ducks and quail, and I got really heavy into breeding quail and raising them for meat and eggs and stuff like that. So I met Bill through this quail group that I belong to, and his wife is an amazing potter. Is that what they're called? Potters? I don't know. You know what I mean. So she made this gorgeous mug for me. I asked Bill if I could buy Brad a mug for his birthday, and he was like, no, I wouldn't charge you for it. We're just going to send you one. And he ended up sending me a beautiful set of 4. So I have not only this lovely blue one, but a green one, something a little bit darker, so on and so forth. And he didn't charge me for it. They totally surprised us with that many mugs. And I sent his wife back a shawl that I knit in exchange, which I think is awesome, that in the farming and creative communities that we're also, kind and generous with one another. And I see that a lot in the different podcasts, how people will, send each other yarn for their scrappy blankets and things like that. So anyway, I thought I would share that because that's a nice story. That is my mug from Bill. And I am drinking decaf coffee because it's far too late. I'm running out of sunlight, actually. Far too late to be drinking caffeinated coffee. And I have treated this with a splash of Bailey's Irish Cream. So cheers to you and cheers to me. I have a whole list of notes to go over today, and I have that in front of me, so don't mind if I'm looking at it. Who I am, where you can find me. I am Knitting Annie on Instagram. I am Insta obsessed, so hello to all of my friends on Instagram and those of you who I've met through there because of this podcast and knitting and whatnot. I am also, where else am I? I have a website, knittingannie.com, where I will be posting this video as well as the show notes. So if you would like a link to anybody that I may mention today, or more information on what I've been talking about, maybe I mentioned a particular fiber and you want to look it up later, you can check that out there. I am also on Ravelry, and I recently changed my name to The Knitting Annie. And hello to my new friends on there. I'm kind of Ravelry, I don't know. I'm not as proficient with Ravelry as the rest of you are. I'm probably one of the least proficient people. That being said, Leslie from Ravelry sent me a message saying, would you please make a Ravelry group? Maybe in the future. Maybe. Is that something that anyone is interested in me doing? Should I make a group? Would you go to the group? Is there a purpose for the group? Would you enjoy chatting in the group and doing knit-alongs and things like that? I could do other giveaways just for folks on Ravelry because I know some people aren't on Instagram. So if you would let me know if that's something that's interesting to you, that would be great. Otherwise, Leslie, maybe in the future. Let's just see. Okay, so let's just go into Instagram really quick because I'm doing a giveaway this month. It's a photo contest. It's hashtag February Knit Game. And if you go into my Instagram account and you look at the pictures there, there's a picture that's kind of pinkish purple. Pinkish purple. I like pinklish though. Somebody should name a yarn pinklish. Pink delish. Okay, so if you go on there and you check out that picture, it will show you there's a picture to post every single day from February 1st to February 14th. If you have not yet posted a picture or you are behind, go right ahead and pick up any of the old days that you've missed. At the end of the photo session, which would be February 14th, I'm going to let it go a few days, and then I will be randomly selecting a winner. And I just posted a picture on my Instagram of what you would win, and I happen to have it right here to show you. So the first thing is a set of Addi Turbos. These are size 2 US 2, which is a 3mm, and it's a 16-inch, which means you would make a great sockhead hat with these needles if you so desire. Also some knitting stitch markers that I made. And the best part, or so I think, is this gorgeous skein of yarn. And I think if I'm viewing it correctly on the screen, this is true to color. This is wicked cool. And I kind of want to open it up because you can't really see all the turquoise and the blue in there. This, originally I said on the last podcast that I wanted to do something from Malabrigo. So Sunday, I was off from work and I said to Brad, let's go to the yarn store because I need to pick up this Malabrigo for the giveaway. And I happened to check their website and they're closed on Sunday. So then I went onto the Malabrigo site and I found this other yarn store. And if I could remember the name, that would be wonderful. I'll put that in the show notes. The gal who owns that store is in Avon, Connecticut, or the store is in Avon, Connecticut. And Brad and I drove out there. And it was the smallest, cutest yarn shop. And when I walked in, they were doing a class on weaving, which I think is so cool because I haven't found any yarn places in Connecticut yet. I'm sure there are others that do classes like that. So I might take a weaving class. I'm not quite sure. But so I walk in and they have a couple sale tables, nothing really that I'm interested in. And then I go look at the Malabrigo and they don't have a big selection. So she said she's waiting on a shipment. But I didn't want to leave you guys hanging, so I was looking around, and I said, do you have anything maybe made in Connecticut or made in New England? Because I'm in Connecticut, and that would be kind of a cool thing for me to share with you. And she said, why, yes, our store owner dyes yarn, and it's called Yarns to Inspire. And I love this so much, I was debating keeping it for myself and then maybe ordering you guys a skein of Malabrigo, but this is so nice. It is for size 1 to 3 US needles, which would be great for those needles that are coming with the giveaway. 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards on a 100 gram skein. So, skein? We can't do that again. So you have enough here to make a shawl. Maybe you could make summer flies, which was the first lace shawl that I ever made, which is so easy to do. I think I made 3 or 4 of them. I gave, I don't have one of my own. I gave them all out as presents. And they take like 3 days on average to do. So maybe you would do that with this. Or maybe you would make something else. And I would love to see whatever it is that you make with this. I hope it doesn't sit in someone's stash for all eternity because it's so cheery and lovely. It should be used right away. So play February Knit Game on Instagram. Check out my Instagram for more information. You're not too late, and the drawing will be a few days after February 14th. It's a random drawing, so if you don't think you're very good at taking pictures, it's fine. It's just to encourage something fun for you to do regarding knitting. I think it's really, really cool to do stuff like that. So I've been enjoying seeing all of your pictures. I've learned a lot. I've made more friends. I just love doing these challenges. So I hope that if you like them, then you participate and then we do more in the future. So those are the presents for that. And let me put this aside because I have so much junk around me. If we pan out in this room, you would be like horrified because I have, to the left of me, we have a bookcase, and half of the bookcase is books. Most of them are really cheesy romance novels that are mine. The others from Brad are like smarter books, like philosophy books and things like that, smart things, science things. I am partial to the cheesy romance novels myself. And then a few shelves of that are just yarn in disarray. It's not organized by anything. Some are in cakes, some are in skeins. I have cones of yarn that I do core spinning with, and we're going to talk about spinning later, so hopefully I won't ramble on too much. On the floor, I have all kinds of fiber. I have fiber in boxes. I have fiber that's spun. Roving, I'm going to show you some little bits of all of this today. And then on the other side of the room, Brad has an easel set up because he's a painter, and he does oil paints, he does acrylic paints, and that's all over there. And then I have a closet full of fiber in pretty much every stage of preparation. And then another little closet next to it that's pretty much floor to ceiling boxes of raw fleece. I truly have a problem. But behind me you can see a bit of a mess. There is my drum carder. And I bought this little table at Walmart one day. It was like perfect size for the drum carder. And then over here I have a rack that I use for drying fleeces and general storage. Sometimes if I have a plan in mind for making a project, I'll like line up the fiber on this and, you know, try and decide what I'm going to do with it. And above that, I have my lizards. Totally out of nowhere. Did you expect me to say lizards? Probably not. I'll talk more about that later. So moving on and moving down the list. Oh, I should talk about what else I got there. So I picked up this yarn too. This is also Yarns to Inspire. I really hope you can see the real color of this on the camera. It's called, oh, you know what? What was the other one called? Because I didn't even look. Oh, awesome. This one is called, okay, the base is called Wonder. The colorway is Northern Lights. So the one for the winning person is Northern Lights. Oh my God, it's so gorgeous. Good luck. What I got for myself, I have been in the mood for a red yarn. It's probably because Valentine's Day is coming. So I picked up this. It's called Cinnamon. This is a different base. This is Serenity. It's 100% superwash merino. There's no nylon in this. Which, you know what? I'm kind of surprised that I picked that up because I was thinking maybe socks. But now I'm going to have to make something else. This is 328 yards and the gauge is for a size 3 to 5 needle. And it's just the most amazing, amazing red color. I don't know that cinnamon is the right word for it. Another thing to talk about with the gal that dyes this, I was talking to her salesperson there, who was very good, by the way. She was very personable and really made me feel welcome. But she was saying how the gal that dyes this really prides herself on using professional acid dyes that are not going to bleed. So she tries very hard on your skein, oh, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. She said that there haven't been any complaints of anything bleeding out when in the rinse, which is very nice to hear. Blue is one of the hardest dyes to get from bleeding, or to keep from bleeding. So if that ever happens to you from an indie dyer's skein of yarn, don't feel too alarmed. It's very difficult to get all of that to rinse out. Sometimes it happens with other colors like red or pink, but mostly it's going to be the blues. And if that ever happens to you, just do some rinsing. Hot water is always good. You don't want to go from cold to hot, hot to cold, that kind of a thing, because that causes felting. You don't want to do a lot of agitation either. And then sometimes if it's really bad, you can get some citric acid, which you can find at like Whole Foods or natural foods markets. You can find it online too, and stick that in some hot water with it too, because sometimes it'll help whatever is on there set to the yarn. Although in most cases it's not in need of setting, it's in need of rinsing. So anyway, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but because we're going to be talking about spinning more later, I guess it was in my mind, but I got this. It's beautiful. What should I make with it? I want to make something maybe with hearts on it, and I'm not a big heart person. So if you can think of a hat maybe, or a cowl that I can use, a pattern, talking not working. If you could think of a pattern that you would suggest, please, I would love that. So thank you. Put that over there. I also picked up some opal sock yarn, which I've never used before, and I see you guys on your podcast and on Instagram all over the place talking about this. I think maybe because it's a durable yarn for socks, and I kind of laughed when I was just preparing for the podcast now, because something that I'm going to show you that I have been knitting is made out of a different brand of yarn that is a very similar color, so I can't believe I got like almost the same color. So that should be cool. And I picked up, whoa, more Knitter's Pride needles, 16-inch in a size 3, which I don't know why, because this will be my third set of these. I must have had a reason. I picked up some more DPNs, and this is my first set of Chiaogu needles, and I thought I would try knitting socks with a 9-inch circular. I don't know if you can see it in there. It's only this tiny little part here. And I know some people love it, some people like really hate it, but I figured I would give it a go. I have done socks in every manner now. 2 at a time, magic loop, 2 separate DPNs, 1 at a time DPN, and now I'm going to try these, you know, short guys. Why not? Why not? Okay, so where are we? I don't even know how I got into that, because that is totally not the order in which I had it arranged on my list. So I told you about the contest. I told you about going to that knit store and showed you my recently acquired stuff. So what else? We're having a snow day today. We've had a lot of snow in New England. There must be 3 feet on the ground or something like that. Not just from today, but you know, overall accumulation. And it started snowing last night, and now it's finally stopped, but we're supposed to be getting more tonight. I don't want to miss another day of work. I know everybody gets so excited for a snow day, but I really don't want to, you know, have to play catch up at work. So that happened. And then last week we had another snow day because of yet another storm. And then Brad and I went to a couple different yarn stores this past week. I am hell-bent on finding sock blockers. I'm going to end up ordering them online, or maybe I will get them at the Connecticut Sheep and Wool Festival in April if I can wait that long. Brad was saying maybe he would try and make me some out of a coat hanger, which might work. So we'll see. But something was very interesting to me. I was at a yarn store recently, and I won't mention which one because it doesn't matter. It was just kind of interesting how it happened. And the lady that was helping me, I was like, do you have any sock blockers? And she said, no, why don't you order them online? And I'm like, why don't I order all of this yarn I'm buying from you online too? It's like, why would you encourage that? If you are a local yarn store and you are watching this, please stock some sock blockers for people like me who have been searching and searching. And every store that I've been to in Connecticut, either they have one old raggedy pair that you really can't use, or they don't have them at all. So please, can someone stock them? Or if you know somebody that makes them and they're awesome, please let me know and I will buy them from them. So I told you that. Yesterday I did a lot of cleaning in the house, which was really great. It feels really good to get stuff in order. I have to do this room at some point. It's like shameful. So if you actually saw behind this camera, you would be like, oh my Lord. So that's what's going on in life. And then I want to say hi to my friend Carolyn. Carolyn, is that how you say your name? Because that's kind of how I would say it here. But she's in Germany. I met Carolyn through Instagram, who, I don't know, were you friends with me on Instagram, or were we following each other on Instagram before the podcast, or was that after? I don't know. But hello. I posted up a picture of Jenny, our horse, the other day, and she said, you've never mentioned Jenny before. So maybe I'll tell you a little bit about my pets. If any of this is boring to you, fast forward and get on with the spinning stuff, because that's coming next, but I'll talk about me and pets for a little while. I am an animal absolute lunatic lover. I don't even know how you can say it to really convey how much I love animals. We have Watson and Ruby, and I've shown them in previous episodes. You guys have seen them before. Watson's a mini schnauzer. I want to say he's 8.5. I don't like to think about how old he is because in my brain I keep saying he's like 2 so that he'll live forever and ever. And we adopted Ruby from a kill shelter down south, I want to say 6 or 7 months ago. Ruby, when we got her, had super short hair, and we thought her hair was going to stay that way, and it kept growing and growing, and now it's like this long, and she's a beautiful dog. We think she is a bearded collie mix. When we got her, she was absolute skin and bones, and she was full of worms. We had to have her treated a few times for the worms. She was terrified, and thanks to Watson and to really our gentle encouragement of her, she's become a really great dog, and we have her. Brad and I are both allergic to cats, so unfortunately we can't have cats. And I know some people are like, oh, well, we just put up with the allergy. We cannot put up with the allergy. We have very bad asthma with cats. I wish I could. I love all animals. We have a rabbit named Warren, and he is like 10 or so or something. You've seen pictures of him on Instagram too. And I have 2 lizards who are right above me. For a period of my life, I had about 50 or 60 lizards that I kept in what I called my reptile room. So I bred and sold and went to different reptile shows. A few different types of lizards, or 2 mainly, crested geckos and gargoyle geckos. I've also had pictus geckos, pygmy chameleons. I had a couple snakes. And now I am down to just the 2 lizards above me, 1 crested gecko and 1 gargoyle gecko, who I think are, I want to say 8 years old and 9 years old, or maybe like 7 years old and 8 years old. They can live for a really long time. The crested gecko I hatched out of an egg, and the gargoyle gecko I got from a breeder, and that one was sent to me in like terrible condition. Lizards are actually sent through the mail, and so are snakes. Little did you know. It happens. I am spilling stuff all over me. It's terrible. So embarrassing. But whatever, we're friends. You guys understand. It's cool. So I kept lizards for a long time. I got into them after I was really into fish. When Brad and I first moved in together, and this is going back now, I don't know how many years. 11 years? I don't know. We had an apartment, and I became really obsessed with aquariums and freshwater fish keeping. And I had so many aquariums in the house that our electric bill was like through the roof every month. And I kept everything from guppies to cichlids to betta fish. I had 28 males in their own individual tanks that I changed the water on 100% because they were so small every other day. And I had a sorority female betta tank. I was breeding, not them, but a lot of the guppies and some of the other fish. And really in every room I had tanks, and they were like floor to ceiling. They were all over the place. And I was just doing it as a hobby. I wasn't doing it to make money or anything like that. So I really got to know the people at the pet store. And then one day I was at the pet store. Everybody knew me by name. And they said, Annie would take the lizard. And I'm like, what lizard? I don't have a lizard. And they said, well, you will, because we've had a lizard here for over a year. Nobody wants it, so we're just going to give it to you. So that's how I started my obsession with reptiles. Fast forward to present day, I've calmed down quite a bit with my animal acquisitions. And I think my newest obsession is fiber. And I have been into fiber. Well, I've been knitting since I was like 15. Brad's mom taught me when I was really young. Brad and I have been together forever. And I started spinning a few years ago. And that'll transition me into my next... Oh, I didn't really talk about Jenny, though. Jenny is our horse. She's a standardbred horse. She was a pacer, which means she was a racehorse. And Brad used to train her and race her. And Brad is a blacksmith, and he puts shoes on horses, and he's had Jenny since she was a baby. And I met Jenny when she was 1 year old, and I want to say she's 12 years old now. And we've had her ever since. And when we moved back to Connecticut, we decided to retire Jenny. So Jenny lives at a farm in Connecticut. She's not in my backyard, unfortunately. I don't have a backyard for that. But she lives at this farm, and we see her, you know, every week. Sometimes Brad sees her multiple times a week. and she has a very nice life there with a whole herd of other horses. She's actually moved up in the pecking order. She used to be on the bottom when we first sent her there, and now she's second in command, which is kind of cool, I guess, for her, not so much for the other horses, unless they don't mind. I don't know. Anyway, so we have Jenny, and she is really a doll. She is the sweetest animal you could ever imagine. And we will have her forever and ever and ever because we love her so much. So that's that. And that is pretty much all I will say about animals at this point. If you want to know anything more about snakes or lizards or fish or anything like that, I'm fairly well versed in the topic. So if you have a fish tank that you're having problems with, or a fish that's got something going on and you need some help, I'm your gal. Let me know. I can help you. So looking at my list, Nikki, hi Nikki. Nikki reached out to me on YouTube and said she would like an episode on spinning. And I won't get into too much about spinning today. I'll talk about a lot, but I won't get into wheels and things like that. That'll be a future episode. But like I said in previous episodes, I have 4 spinning wheels. I have my drum carter. I have a picker, which I should show you one day because it's really cool. I have all manner of hand tools. I have all kinds of drop spindles. And a lot of the people that I watch now on podcasts are getting into spinning, which is so cool. So I started spinning a few years ago. For some reason, it just like hit me that I should try it. I wasn't really watching anybody do it. I went to a yarn store in New Jersey called, oh gosh, is it Wool Gatherings? I'll put it in the show notes, but Nick from his podcast was just talking about that store. He wrote about it because he's not too far from them. But anyway, they do spinning classes there, and she is a dealer in different, she's a Lewitt dealer, an Ashford dealer, and maybe one of the other brands. So if you signed up for a spinning class with her, you got to sit down with all of these different spinning wheels and give them all a try and learn from a master spinner. And she has this gal that does the class who was really phenomenal. And it was a 2 or 3 class series, I can't remember. And the first class you learn how to spin on a spindle, which I didn't want. I wanted to go straight to the wheel. But I'm really glad I started with the spindle because it really gives you a good foundation for how yarn is made. Because it shows you a different perspective than the wheel would. And then when you finally move to the wheel, you have a better understanding of what's happening when you're doing it. So I started there with that. I had bought a spinning kit from somebody on Etsy before going to this class, and it was basically a big bag of alpaca, which is not my favorite thing to spin. I know I've been talking about that a lot lately, but definitely not my favorite fiber. But I bought this big bag of alpaca not knowing that it was really slippery or that the stable length was short, and I thought I would teach myself, you know, while this concurrently to this class going on. It really didn't work because I got so frustrated with the alpaca that I was almost like, oh, why am I even doing this? And then in the class, she had us learn on Romney roving, which is much easier for a beginner to learn on. And after that, you know, the session at the class, I bought my first spinning wheel. I bought a Lewitt S17, and I started practicing, and I did more and more and more, and I loved it. And I ended up spinning that bag of alpaca like a few weeks after I started on the wheel, and I said, wow, it's so much easier now. My advice to the people that are learning how to spin now, don't give up and just keep going. There's really no spinning police, and those people are out there. Yarn police are out there, and knitting police are out there, people that think they know everything about everything. Don't listen to them. Just do what you enjoy doing, and if in the beginning your yarn is lumpy and bumpy, celebrate that. Just enjoy the process. Don't worry about making the thinnest yarn or the most perfect yarn. It's not about that. It's really about experiencing the process. And then it makes me think, when I was a little girl, this woman came to my class. I was in elementary school. I can't remember how old I was. I was pretty young. And it was kind of like a grown-up show and tell or a demonstration about spinning. So she sat up in the front of the class with her spinning wheel, spun some yarn, and I was totally enamored with it. And she passed around a few different colors of fiber. From what I remember, there was something that was gray, there was something that was cream, and something that was like a brownish black. It was probably more brown. I can't believe how much of this I remember because I was so little. And she said, smell that. What you're smelling is the lanolin in the wool. And I smelled it, and it was like the best smell of my life. and I love wool to this day. I love the smell of lanolin. I love the smell of a farm. I love farm animals. It's, you know, something about that lifestyle just calls to me. And lanolin is like an addictive thing. And some of you who spin and process wool, when I talk with you, it's like the same thing. Everybody washes wool and they're like, oh God, I love that smell. So I was a little girl and everybody else around me, all the little kids, were smelling this and they're like, oh, this is so gross. And I remember smelling it thinking like, oh, what's wrong with me? Because I love it. It was amazing. And I went up to the lady after the class and I remember asking her for the little bit of the wool. It was just a tiny little, I mean, I could probably grab how little it was just to show you what it was. It was a tiny, tiny little lock of wool. And I asked her if I could please keep it because I loved it so much and I loved the smell of it and it was just so amazing. And when you touched it, you know, it was greasy with the lanolin. And she told me no. And she said that if she gave some to me, she'd have to give some to everyone else in the class. And I said, no, you wouldn't, because nobody else liked it and I'm the only one that liked it. And I think that that annoyed her and she didn't give me a little piece. Well, maybe that's why I'm overcompensating with all of the wool that I have now, because I have plenty to go around. So that's how I started with spinning. And if you are even thinking about doing it, I would really encourage it. It's such a romantic process, the notion of taking something off of an animal, spinning it, and then knitting with it and having a finished garment like the hat that I'm wearing. It's such a romantic notion. And if you are into knitting because of that, how it makes you feel and knowing that something that you worked on became a finished product, you would even feel that much more if you spun the yarn first. So let's talk about spindles really quick, and I'll show you the first spindle that I ever bought, and it was in that kit. It's something that you can probably make at home if you're handy, if you go to like a craft store, Michael's, Joann's, Hobby Lobby, wherever you go. And then I'll show you some of the others that I have. So don't mind me, I'm just gonna turn around in my mess and try and figure out where everything is. Okay, so this is the first thing. This came with my alpaca kit, and I'll hold it up so you guys can see it. This is a leader. Not everybody spins with a leader. I happen to have it on this one. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. No big deal. If you want to use one, use it. If you don't want to use one, fine. Don't let spinning police tell you how you have to spin. You spin the way you enjoy spinning, and then later on, hone your craft. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox rant about spinning the way you want to spin. This is basically a wooden wheel, and I think if you go to Joann's or Michael's, they have these in the woodworking section. They'll have these dowels in that section too. But what this person did was she got this wheel, it's a toy wheel, and she drilled a hole in it, stuck that dowel in there. That's a little eye hook thing. No, just the hook, not the eye part. Excuse me. And it twists right into... This is so awkward, by the way, trying to film this horizontally. I hope it comes out okay. But anyway, she screws that right into the top there. And the wheel is attached to the dowel with some wood glue. And if I put it on an angle, you can probably see. I'm sure if you Google this, you can find a tutorial online somewhere about how to make this. The advantage to this, it's big, it's easy to hang on to. The disadvantage, it's very heavy. I haven't put this on my scale, so I don't know what the weight is. But it's very heavy and it's kind of cumbersome now as a more experienced spinner to spin it because it's so heavy. And then she didn't do this, and if you make one of these for yourself, I recommend doing this. But I filed out a notch here so that when you're spinning, I'll move the leader over there. When you're spinning, it goes into that notch and then you can wind it up on the hook. Sometimes it helps too, not to just wind it the once, but if you go around there a second time, see I just made 2 little loops on the top there? And then you take this and you spin it. As you get more experienced, you can also spin these on your thigh. If you're sitting down, you can also spin it on your thigh if you're standing up. So that's my first one. It's kind of heavy. So if you are starting out and you're a new spinner, it might be easier for you to start out with something a little bit lighter. Why not start with something that doesn't come in a kit? So you don't necessarily need to have this big bulky dinosaur kind of a thing. You can get something a little bit lighter, and I'll show you a couple of the suggestions I have. So that's my first one. I will never get rid of this though. This is something that, it's just a very special memory to me, how I started. Oh, and it's also lacquer finished, which you could do too at home. You can also Google tutorials on making your own spindle out of a CD and a pen. So check that out. Not all spindles need to have this cup on the top. You could make a half hitch. Maybe I'll remember to put that in my show notes, what a half hitch is. This is called a top whorl spindle because the whorl is on the top of the shaft. You can also get spindles that are this way. Pretend that hook isn't there, and that is a bottom whorl spindle. And then it's just a matter of personal preference. I think most people who are starting out tend to go to the top whorl, but you can start with either. I'll put that aside. And then I have a few spindles from a guy whose name is Scott Snyder, and he has a little business on Etsy, Snyder Spindles. I don't know if it's Snyder Spindles as the shop name, but I'll put that in the show notes too. Scott is such an amazing guy that when I bought this spindle, my first spindle from him was this gear style. I think he calls this his steampunk spindle. This is, I think it's walnut. It's light like walnut, I can't remember now. But the first one I bought from him, I was so devastated because I was cleaning up my fiber room and I stepped on it and it was in like a trillion pieces. So Scott was so kind, he said, mail it back to me and I'll fix it for free and I'll send it back to you. He said the first damage is on him or something, like I don't remember, but he was so kind to do that. And then I think that's how I ended up buying my second spindle from him. But anyway, this is a great spindle. If you are a beginner, I would highly recommend buying this from Scott. One of the great things about this gear style is that all of these little notches are a place for your yarn to go. So like how I showed you in the last spindle, I had to, you know, notch that groove in there. This already has all of that, and it doesn't matter which one you put it in. It's great. It's not too heavy, and I'll kind of like spin it in my hand a little bit. It spins really easily. It actually spins for a long time, and I don't know if that has to do with this being so large. But this is one of my favorite spindles to spin on. I'm predominantly a wheel spinner, but I will occasionally go to my spindles still. This is the next spindle that I got from Scott. This is called a Turkish spindle. And on these spindles, you'll notice there's no hook up here. So with this, you are making a half hitch. And I wonder if I unravel a little bit of this, I can show you what I mean by that. But on this, I was playing around with some silk, really with nothing in mind other than to play around with it. But I'm going to wind that back up the top. I don't know if you can see that I'm doing that. And a half hitch, you kind of like, I don't know if you could see, I just twisted the yarn around and you stick it in here and you're almost making like a little loop. And that's how this spins. So when I'm spinning it, oh, that wasn't a very good spin, but you understand what I'm saying. Turkish spindles are really cool because you wind this around a certain way on the bottom with the intention at the end, and let me unhook this here and I can show you, of moving this bit up and off, and then you slide this piece out, and then you slide your yarn off, and then if this was really done, if this had more yarn on here, it would be a better example for you, but it makes it into a ball. So it's very simple to take it off. Now if I wanted to ply this against something, I can do that. It's already wound into a ball. It's very easy to spin on. It's really a pleasure to spin. And then it's easy to go back together. I just slide this piece back in here. And then I stick the skinny piece through the bottom. And there we go. Well, almost. I have to fiddle with it a little bit more. Scott's spindles are very affordable. He's not giving me anything to tell you guys this. I don't want you guys to think that I'm just doing constant like Home Shopping Network talks with you. But if I really enjoy somebody's product or I think it's a good value, I'm going to let you know so I can pass that along. But I'll put that in the show notes so you can check that out. And then Scott made me a very, very special spindle. You're going to be super jealous. Okay, so this has, I'm so excited, I'm like falling out of my chair. This has a metal shaft. This was actually a chopstick. And he signed it on the inside. But wait until you see the top. Are you totally jealous now? I love Star Trek. So we were talking about this and I said to Scott, do you think that that's something that you could make? And he's like, yeah, I could do that. And he totally made this one-of-a-kind spindle just for me. How awesome is that? With a metal shaft. So cool. The next one I'm going to show you is a support spindle. If you are new to spinning, don't let people tell you not to start with support spindles. Start with whatever is calling to you. Some people say these are more difficult. Whatever you learn on is probably going to be, all of it's probably going to be difficult for you in the beginning. But this is a support spindle. This was from Aaron Makes Stuff. Aaron's spindles are in such high demand that sometimes when he makes updates, they're like gone like that. Aaron does something really cool. I don't know if you can see that really well. Those are colored pencils. And Aaron puts them into some sort of an epoxy. Sometimes it has sparkles in it. And then he compresses it, and then he actually works that on his lathe, much like he does the wood. This has a fantastic balance. So when I spin this, so I don't want to drop it. When I spin this, it spins really true. It doesn't have a lot of wobble to it, which is nice. When I was at the last yarn festival, I tried to find one by doing that in my hand that didn't wobble a lot, that had a really straight up and down spin, and I didn't find one like this. And I was so happy because buying this online, you don't really know, but Aaron's quality is fantastic and it spins really well. So I would recommend that. What I have on here is just some Dorset sheep fleece that I was just playing around with. I just wanted to see how it would spin on this versus how I'm spinning it on a spindle. So really nothing fancy. I just plan on using that as like a waste yarn later on. So I wanted to show you a few different things about fiber, and we can talk about fiber really quick. If you guys are new spinners, or even if you're an advanced spinner and I happen to be able to answer something for you, I'm happy to talk about it or do that. So if you want to know more about a particular sheep breed that I bring up, I'm happy to talk about it. You know, just let me know, because I'm just going to ramble on. So bear with me. Hopefully you learned something or something's interesting to you. Oh, my friend Ellen, who is in Sweden, who is sending me, she sent it already, the fiber that I'm going to be spinning for her, the Gotland fiber, has also sent me another breed of sheep, and, very exciting, another breed of sheep that is rare and that is in Sweden as a giveaway for you guys. So I'm not going to talk about that just yet because she wants to get, you know, more information in order on her end. I want to get more information in order on my end for how we're going to give this away. But it's a small parcel of raw fleece from this rare breed in Sweden. I think it's very exciting, and I'm really happy to be spinning what she sent me. So I just want to show you really quick. This is the Gotland. When I got this package, I was like so excited. Everything is in these adorable little brown paper packages. I was going to go through everything she sent me, but I'll show you more in a later episode if it's interesting to you. And this is what it looks like. That is very curly, silvery fiber. And I don't really want to pull it apart. When I take fleece out of a package like this, I like to take it out in one big lump and then kind of unroll it, because oftentimes the person who put it together has taken a lot of care in the way they roll it. Oh God, it smells so good. But this is what it looks like. Oh, that fell out easy, so we'll put that back in there. When I talk about staple length, I'm talking about how long the fiber is if I go like that. When you're buying raw fleece, they're usually measuring it unstretched. Sometimes they might say to you, 4 inches unstretched, 5 inches stretched. So this is probably what? 5 inches unstretched? And what I'm going to do is wash this for her. I'm actually going to do all of the picking by hand because I want to be very meticulous about the way it's picked. And then I am going to comb it and I'm going to spin it. And I can tell you just a little bit about the Gotland breed if you're interested. I cannot pronounce this the right way because here we say Gotland, but it's spelled, maybe I should show you. Gotlandsvar. So the Gotland sheep origins from the island of Gotland in the Baltic Sea and are a descendant of the Gutfar. It's most known for its shiny curly pelt and are mainly bred for pelt and meat. With a breeding focus on the pelts, the once dual coat fleece has been replaced with a fleece of guard hairs alone. A typical Gotland is gray, but the shade may vary. Lambs are often born black and lighten with age, a process that keeps on through the sheep's life. The sheep produce a long wool, and according to the Swedish breed standards, the lock should be gray, curly, or wavy, and shiny. Gotland is the only Swedish breed that is high in number and isn't included in a conservation program. So Ellen was so kind. With all of the different breeds that she sent me, she made this fact sheet for me, which it's just so lovely to be able to refer to what I'm spinning and look at this. And what I love too, she has a history on this fleece. So the Gotland fleece is from a local farm. They have an organic production, meaning the wool is organically produced. It's from a ewe lamb born in the spring of 2014 and shorn the same fall. Gotland lambs are born black and lighten with age. We just talked about that. And then the other wool that she sent me, she actually gave me all of the names of the sheep that they're from and a little description about them, which is really exciting. And I will give you guys more of that information in another episode, and then we'll talk about the giveaway. But as I spin that, I will show you my process, and I'll show you what I'm doing, the finished product, and all that. So exciting. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to share this, not only with someone else who is in the fiber community who appreciates it, but somebody else from a farm in another part of the world. I just think it's the coolest thing. So that's that. And I wanted to show you a few other different fibers. Sometimes when we talk about add-ins with spinning, I'll show you some add-ins, but when you're buying fleeces and things like that, or bats, you can also buy the add-ins. You don't have to have machinery to spin it into your fleece or the bat that you're using or the braid that you're using. Trying to look and see what I should grab next. This stuff, I found this, I was looking all over for this the other day, and this bag was underneath something else. This is my big bag of Angelina. And Angelina is very sparkly. And I'll just do this one because I think it's going to be the least crinkly. This is called Apricot. And Angelina is basically this big sparkle stuff. And if you wanted to buy this separately from somebody, you could. And then while you're spinning from a bat or spinning from a braid, you just grab a little tuft of this and spin it right into your yarn. So don't feel like you have to have machinery to make something unique or to make your own kind of a blend. Although believe me, it helps. And then I'll show you one other kind. Some Angelina also, if you're going to be buying that kind of stuff, is fusible, which means in the heat it will adhere to itself, and sometimes other things as well. It's used a lot in felt making. So if you're going to be buying it for spinning, just be careful that you're not buying the kind that's heat sensitive. And this is Firestar. It's also sparkly, but it's a very thin fiber. It's almost like wool itself. And that can be held and blended as well. And then sometimes if I'm showing this to someone, they say, can you spin that on its own? You can, but it doesn't make a very nice yarn or something that has a purpose for me, so I wouldn't. But it's really gorgeous blended in. This is like totally random show and tell, so I'll show you some other things too. This is a yarn that I made on my Ashford. I have an Ashford traditional from the 70s. It's just white single ply. And it was made from Border Leicester, which is another of the long wools. This is washed Border Leicester. And I'll show you the staple on this. Isn't it amazing how all of the different sheep produce such different fibers? It's almost like different people. Some people have curly hair, some people have straight hair. You guys haven't seen me curly yet. I actually have curly hair. Maybe on another episode, we'll see. But this is the lock and the staple of the Border Leicester. And I can't remember, I think with that yarn I was flicking the ends with a dog brush, which I think I have one to show you what I mean. So don't mind the blue stuff in here. But you can get a dog brush and get a fleece that's got a nice lock structure. And you flick the ends. So if you grab this and you open up the ends, see how it's nice and fluffy there? And then you can grab this side if you want and do that as well. Now you can spin from this. So you can spin from the fold, you can fold this in half and then spin from this side here, or you can spin from the end, however it's easy. So if you want to experiment with raw fleeces and you have something like a dog slicker brush, just make sure you get a fleece that's intact and that has a nice lock structure. And you want to do this probably in the beginning if you're just learning on a fleece that's a little bit stronger. So you wouldn't want to use a fine fleece like a merino or a Rambouillet. If I'm saying Rambouillet right, that's how I imagine saying it. Because in flicking it, you might get some breakage that you don't want. Or try it out. I mean, it's all about experimenting, right? So that was something fun to show you. Talking about fine fleeces, I happen to have one right next to me. What are the odds in that? This is a CVM Rambouillet, and I actually have this in a bucket. This is a bucket that I use to help me wash fleeces when I'm inside, but I was going to wash this and then I decided to do something else, so I just shoved it in this bucket. But I'm going to rip a piece of this apart. I was kind of hoping you guys could see the crimp on that. This is a much more fine wool, and this was a coated sheep, so you can see the tips are a little bit funny. You know what? They're not brittle though, so when I try and pull those, I can pull really hard on that and they're not breaking, which is a great sign. It's a healthy fleece. Something like this, I'm going to really take care when I'm washing it. There's not a lot of vegetable matter in here, meaning little bits of hay and stuff from when the sheep was out living his life in the world. Well, he's still alive. Sheep are not killed to take this off of them. I've been to a few shearings and it's actually a fun day and good time had by all. But anyway, this I'm going to take more care in washing. I'm not just going to wash it in the, a big basin like I normally do. I'm going to wash it a little bit more laid out, probably between some tulle or in a one of those little garment bags that you would wash like lingerie in. So that's CVM. This is a much softer fleece. It's not as coarse as the Border Leicester was. This also has some gray in it. I'm just going to hold the bucket up again so you can see. What looks like yellow here is going to wash out cleaner. This is really because of the lanolin that's in there. And then this is a gorgeous gray. I wish you guys could see the crimp in that. It's just amazing. Really beautiful, beautiful fleece. And I want to say this came from Washington State. I can't remember. I should keep better records. Am I boring you? If I am, please let me know at the end or send me a message and say, please do not ramble on about fiber like that anymore. Because I can really like go and go and go. So let me know. Then I want to show you something that's kind of cool. This is Blue-Faced Leicester. And look how curly that is. So we went from something like this to something like this. This is washed already. And I think I am just going to make some crazy art yarn with it. This has got more VM than I normally like. I got this at a wool show last year. I don't know if you can see it. See those? This is like bits of hay that the sheep was eating. And it's just such a pain in the neck to get all of it out. So I'm going to try and shake as much out as I can. And then I'm going to probably do a really loose, I'm not even going to process it. I'm going to keep it curly like this. And I'm probably going to do a really loose spin around a thick core and make something that I can turn into some sort of pillow. I think you call them cushions in other parts of the world. And make something a little bit more decorative for the house or something like that, because it does have that veggie matter in there and I'm not going to be able to get it all out really easy. I'm going to get up for a second. Don't go anywhere. Thank you. I just went to the other side of the room. So this is also Blueface Leicester, except this fleece is much cleaner. I recently sent some of this to Yarntasia, who won the last contest, and this was part of her prize winnings. And she said, what should she do with it? But you can make a yarn when you're spinning by spinning one of these little pieces in as you go, or you can knit with this directly into your garment. What else will I show you while we are in here and we are together? Do you want to see some Surrey alpaca? Surrey is a different variety of alpaca. There is Wakaya. Am I pronouncing that correctly? I spin this stuff and I've been hoarding it for years, but I probably don't know how to say all of it properly. So there's Surrey and Huacaya. Either way, let me grab that too. Don't mind my butt if you see it. Did I moon you? Surrey alpaca is generally a longer fleece, and it's got a different consistency than the other variety. And this, it's almost like people hair. Well, it's softer. But it has like no memory. There's no bounce to this. It's not like wool at all. So when I spin this, it's going to make a yarn that has like zero memory, zero bounce. It's going to be very drapey, so I have no idea what I would make with it. I always say that to you guys. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know what I'm going to do. Part of this for me is about the process, not as much about a finished garment or something like that. I enjoy fiber so much. But see how easily this breaks apart? So this has been your introduction to fibers. I could probably go on and on and on all day, but I won't. Oh, but you know what I wanted to show you? One last thing. I got in my head the other day that I had to knit a sock. So the yarn that I showed you in a recent episode, I made a sock. This is a pattern that uses a slip stitch. It's a free pattern. I'll link to that. You can kind of see it here. I did an afterthought heel, which was my first afterthought heel ever. I was so nervous. When it came time to do the heel, I didn't know what to do, and I got like really paranoid and nervous that I was going to screw it up. So I contacted my friend Chris, who's on Facebook. He's a very accomplished knitter. He's like the quickest knitter I've ever seen. Super accomplished. He makes the most amazing things. And I sent him this message in a panic, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know how to make this afterthought heel. So he didn't get back to me right away, and I just got really impatient. So I decided to like pull it out little by little and pick up the stitches, and I did it. The heel is made the same way the toe is made. So if I move this really quick, that's the toe, and that's the heel. So I had to do a Kitchener on both sides, which I don't mind. I'm pretty okay with that. And that's that. I made a sock. And then today, so I didn't get second sock syndrome, I did this. But I don't know what's going on with me, because as I'm knitting today, I'm like, God, my hand's starting to hurt. My hand hasn't hurt for a little while now knitting. I think I was doing it so tight and gripping it so tight. If I can show you these next to each other, can you tell how much bigger this is than this? What am I going to do? It's totally different gauge. If I line that up, look how much space I have here. Is it because I put this on and it's stretched already? Or is it because I'm knitting this tight like a lunatic? I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. I kind of wish that this was more tight. I don't know. When you guys make socks, do you like to have them fit you very tight so that you feel that there's elastic in them? I don't want things to sag when I wear them. But I'm so happy I made a sock. I was like, you know what? I just need to do it. I was in the middle of making my bunny that I've been showing you guys, and then I was like, forget it. I need to make a sock right now. And I put that on the needles, and 2 days later, I had a sock. And then, just to show you, this is the yarn I got yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and that's my other yarn. It's like almost the same. What are you gonna do? Yarn problems. Okay, so that was very disjointed, kind of all over the place. If you have specific questions about spinning or whatever, please let me know. I'm happy to do show and tell, but maybe I should make, I don't know, something more specific, easier to follow, whatever. Thank you so much for watching. Please join in, hashtag February knitting game. No, I'm saying that wrong. February knit game on Instagram. Check it out. And if you are interested in a Ravelry group, please let me know. I'm happy to do it. I don't know. Are you interested in it? And that's pretty much it. I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's been reaching out, saying hello, that they're enjoying watching. I'm enjoying doing these. And thank you so much for watching. And thank you to everyone who's been following me on YouTube. I'm just like blown away about the amount of people on there that are following me. I think it's crazy. Maybe after you see me today without my makeup on, you might change your opinion. I don't know. So hello to everybody who's watching. Thank you so much. Thank you if you're a new viewer, if you made it all this way through my rambling. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.